It started. Awesome. Hey, y'all. My name is Christina. Welcome to the Cusp of Rebirth, your healing podcast, sharing all of the tools, the wellness information that is here to help you along your wellness and healing journey. Today, I have Faith with me. We actually we were able to talk previously as she was to be a part of our Thick Girl Yoga LA Beach Day, and of course, if you take a look at my Instagram, you'll see maybe 3 or 4 years it's rained in September, and so we had to reschedule. Yet Faith has still been here and she's a part of the community. Actually, I got to see you at Thick and Well Apothecary. You came through and showed your support, which I'm super gracious for. And I'm excited to share you with the community today. She's on Instagram, y'all, TikTok, with that beautiful smile, her partner, and she's sharing all of the goodness from Reiki to past life information. She is a coach, and she's also, I'm going to allow you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the world as I'm over here fangirling out like she does this and that and this and that. And so, Faith, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I'm so excited to be here. Like, I fangirl about you too. Every time I see you doing more things on social media, I'm like, look at her. She is killing it. It is such an honor to share space with you and be a part of this glorious empire that you are creating for people that we all need. And I am a third generation psychic healer. I'm a Reiki master, a channel, and a manifestation coach. My background has led me to combining healing for the physical body, the spiritual body, and the energetic body in order to facilitate multidimensional healing, because we know that our thoughts affect our bodies, right? And from my perspective, working with past lives, we can have stuff from past lives that affects us too. And so really working with them all together really promotes deep levels of healing. That just brings me so much joy to offer to people.
I love that. I love that. And multidimensional. When you said multidimensional, I was just like, expansion, right? And so one of the things that we do here at the Cusp of Rebirth, I'm going to ask you, what's your sign? And if that has anything to do with your calling.
I am a Sagittarius.
Okay.
And it absolutely has to do with my calling. So much fire, so much ambition, so much travel, so much expansion, so much learning, so much call to be of service that I feel pretty to the T Sagittarius sun sign in that way.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And so I wanted to ask, as you shared in a previous interview, that, you know, your mom is the one who brought forward these healing modalities as you were a youth. And so when do you remember that first time that you had a rebirth? What felt like a rebirth?
Well, the first time I remember receiving past life healing, I was 5 years old, and I would consider that the first of the spiritual rebirths, my first real introduction of experiencing it and what that work could do for me. And I was having some anxiety about going to kindergarten. I didn't know it was anxiety. I just knew I had stomach aches. And I remember my mom saying, let's do some clearing for you. And she used a modality called spiritual response therapy, which uses these charts and a pendulum to identify and clear past life trauma and the false subconscious beliefs, the fears that are remaining as a result of trauma. We know that happens in this lifetime, right? And if we zoom out and we see the entirety of our soul's experience, then we understand that things can happen in other lifetimes too. So she was clearing away traumas that had happened to me in other lifetimes that were giving me some anxiety being around groups, feeling unsafe, having some social anxiety that as a 5-year-old, you don't understand with the conscious mind. And so I remember her doing that work for me, and very quickly, you know, falling in love with school and being in groups. And my grandmother had introduced that work to her, actually. And so I was always able to have these conversations growing up in my home, which was really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I lived in a really small town, so my mom said, maybe don't talk about it with anybody else. As I got older, it was very liberating to find my people and be able to talk about those things. But the first one, that one changed me, and that set me up to know I could always come back to this work whenever I needed to and was called to.
I love that. I love that. And so I'm a doula. And so with doula work, I learned that while our mothers were in our grandmother's womb, we were there as well. And so naturally, right, we get that energy, we get that same energy as well. So I love how you shared that about your grandmother first initiating it, and then your mother receiving it, and now we're here at the third, you are the third. I love it. I love it. And so for someone who is, you mentioned finding your people, right? Knowing that there were certain things you couldn't speak about with everyone. How did you go about finding your people?
When I was in college and I was studying acting, that's my background is in theater. You got really introduced to people who are more open-minded and artists. And I think when I really dove into my artistry and my calling to be a performer, so many people are called to spirituality through the arts. So many people, their artistic expression is spiritual to them because creative expression is spirit expressing through us. And so I think when I was committed myself to that path, which then I obviously took a left-hand turn. But that really introduced me to people who were more interested in this material. And it was amazing to be able to talk about it.
Okay. I love it. I love it. And that's the way it happens sometimes, in the sense of you just showing up yourself and then allowing those to come close who are in alignment.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing that my clients are dealing with. They come to me is that they don't have anyone else besides me to talk about these intuitive awakenings that they're having, these amazing dreams and these intuitive hits and seeing number patterns, right? We call them angel numbers. And they feel so helpless, like they don't have that community around them. But what I always say is it doesn't matter where you live. You may find your community online at first, but we have to remember that people are waking up. It is happening. We are part of this. As a spiritual entrepreneur, you as a spiritual entrepreneur, we are seeing more people hungry for something to help them make sense of this human experience. And so we understand, again, our thoughts create a reality. So if we believe that our people are out there, you will find them. I guarantee it. I've seen it happen time and time and time again. If you believe that they are looking for you, that it is for all of your highest benefit to find each other, spirit will lead you to each other. Absolutely. And we need it.
We do, because that's how we get to thrive in community, and I've learned that, through my practices and through this journey, in a sense of understanding there's times where we are with ourselves, and then there's times where we are to be in community. And so, thank you for sharing. I'm still like, in the sense of just being, again, excited. You said those awakenings that are happening, and you mentioned certain things happening from angel numbers, right? Having dreams. What would you say, or what would you share with a client who is starting to pay attention to these certain things, and maybe they seem a little bit too cliche, or they're working to learn what they are and adjust and bring them in because they see them, but they don't know exactly how to move with knowing them or educating themselves? Because I just did a post today about awakening and ascension and what the differences are, right? Understanding that a lot of people are awakening, yet the word, right? The word awakening, sometimes it's going to fall different for everyone. And so knowing that you can continue to grow. And that's the same thing as awakening to a certain extent, right? But the question I had was, you know, in a sense of the jargon and the angel numbers and, you know, these words and spiritual intuitive, you know, or these things that are coming up, how best would you suggest a client to work through accepting them?
I would say to write them down, first of all, so you
That's
have a
great.
record that you can refer to and you can go back to. So as things start to happen, you can look back at that. And it's really about getting quiet, giving yourself that time, get quiet and get still, self-care, self-love, because connecting with your intuition is connecting with your possible self. And so when we are receiving, when we're in that, getting that self-talk, right? So many of us are, that inner voice is so mean, right? It's so mean to us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when we hear that soft, quiet voice that's kind, that's our intuition and that's our high self. And when we learn how to trust it, which is just a muscle, it's just like learning to play a new sport. You have to practice because it seems easy. Random things that just pop in or synchronicities that just happen. And we just go, no, that's a coincidence. There's no way that I actually had anything to do with that or there's anything else going on. But there absolutely is. And so and continuing to learn from different healers, different entrepreneurs, different intuitives, because everyone's going to explain things a little bit differently. And, you know, you're going to reach people that I'm not going to reach. And that's why, you know, you are so dedicated to introducing your community to a lot of different intuitives. And I'm the same way with my community, because I could say something, but you say it in just a little bit of a different way that someone goes, oh, that's it. I get it now. Right. And so it's not necessarily that, you know, you have to understand what all the symbols in a dream that you have means. It's more about knowing that there is something bigger than this human experience, so much bigger. And when we soften our senses just a little bit and we stop relying on what our eyes see and our ears hear, which we know our eyes only see a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what reality actually is. And so when we start allowing ourselves to feel through the world, we can receive more of that information and ultimately that love that's always available to us. And as we lean further and we start trusting it, life just gets more fun. And it gets easier and it gets more abundant and it comes from you. It doesn't come from outside of yourself. It comes from how we're feeling in here and how connected we are to the universe, God, spirit, Sophia, energy, source, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing.
Right.
And it's here to support us on the ascension journey, which we're all at a different place on the same ladder. We're all going to the same place. We might not all get there in this lifetime, but we're all going to get there eventually. And it's those little signs, those little nudges, that soft voice that says, maybe you should take a break, right? Maybe you should just lay down for 15 minutes, or maybe you should give that friend a call. And you call and they go, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you. Or, oh my gosh, I'm having such a terrible day. It's so great to hear from you. That's letting spirit work through you. That's allowing yourself to be a vessel for the divine. That's being a light worker on this planet, which is what we are all here to do.
Go ahead. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. No, that's it. You know, we all are able to access, right? To access all of these things within us. And so that was beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that. And just trusting your intuition can bring you forward so far. And you mentioned a word, and I believe it's become a little cliche now. And granted, at the beginning, it wasn't, because I know what it feels like, right? And so healing. We hear that a lot now, right? We hear there's two: healing and trauma. And as I always saw healing as going within and pulling whatever it is out, taking a look at it, seeing if it's yours, and moving forward from there in love. And so we'll get tested for sure, in a sense, to see if we have healed from said situation. And there's been occasions where I'm like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna go back and revisit. We're gonna go dig through that again and see where I need to heal. And so for you, what does healing look like? You know, what I know, and we hear too, it's not linear, but ultimately, what does healing look like for you?
Really beautiful question. For me, it is being able to identify when I feel out of alignment, and which doesn't mean that I'm feeling happy and super abundant all the time, but it's when I notice those emotions that don't feel good, that I don't really have a tolerance for anymore. Lack, jealousy, worthlessness. And I'm able to identify it in the moment and go, okay, where is this coming from? I don't want to bypass this. I don't want to live with this. I know that this isn't from spirit. This isn't from spirit. And I know now that every time I hold space for one of those things, that it's going to get me to the other side. And on the other side, there's liberation. On the other side, there's joy and expansion. And so for me, that really looks like sitting with it. And maybe I pull some oracle cards, maybe I do some writing, maybe I do a meditation and I get quiet, maybe I go for a walk, maybe I just, need to go have some fun and go to a carnival or something. And that's what healing looks like. But when I am aware of it and I hold space for it and I have the intention on moving through it, spirit will drop through the reasons that thing is there. Now, for me, that might be something that happened to me in this lifetime. It might be something that happened to me in another lifetime. It might come from something that was passed down ancestrally that I'm still carrying. And then I asked to transmute it, or I asked to surrender it. And which is the most important thing, just being able to go, spirit, I would like to surrender these feelings of helplessness, because that's not soul aligned. And so I'm giving it to you. Yeah. And maybe I'll do some Reiki for myself, or I'll do some of the past life healing that I have. But the most important thing is just saying, just take it. I say my angel babies. I say, angel babies, please take please take this anger, or show me what I can do with this anger, right? Show me how I can turn this anger into something that will allow me to be of service in a greater way. And so for me, it is a process, and sometimes it happens in a day, and sometimes it happens over several weeks. It's happening much faster now that I've been on this journey for a long time, but I'm still doing it. The stuff is still coming up, but I just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And every time I go deeper, more expansion happens, which is the key.
Right. And so it is. You mentioned past life regression and past life hurt. What for a person who's never heard of a past life, and it's new to them, what would you describe as past life energy, or just past life in general?
Which I love talking about past lives. I do a lot of things, but that is the anchor of everything I do. It just makes so much sense. Like if you have a weird relationship with your sister and you don't understand why, or, you have these patterns with money, or, you just can't, you always seem to align with bosses or supervisors who don't treat you well. And we go into past lives, it just all of a sudden starts to make sense. And I will offer that the idea of reincarnation is nothing new. It's written about in the mystic traditions of all the major world religions, even though they're not talked about in the mainstream. But I will describe it as looking at this life without looking at your past lives is like opening a book, a novel in the middle and skipping the beginning. You're going to be lost. You're not going to understand what's going on. And so when we zoom out and we go to the beginning of the story, step chapter by chapter by chapter, you go, oh, I see how I got here, right? And we know that it is sinking more deeply into the mainstream when you see BuzzFeed articles about it. There are so many BuzzFeed articles with children, right, who have these past life memories, and their parents are like, how do you know that? How did you know the house that we lived in when I was pregnant with you, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a really exciting to see, you know, just TV shows, people will just mention things and mention Reiki and mention the Akashic records, which when you talk about past lives, you'll talk about the Akashic records, which are essentially the iCloud of everything that's ever existed or ever will exist. And we all have the ability to access this collective subconscious, right? Because we all share it. Now, some of us, it is, you know, more open than others, but it doesn't mean that anyone is less capable than anyone else. And so it just puts all the puzzle pieces together. It helps you understand what your mission is, what you are called to learn in this lifetime. And it is just a beautiful tool for any modality that does conflict with some religious, beliefs. But for most people who are spiritual, there is room to fit it into any dogma, is what I have found.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And so from here, in a sense of sharing, what is it that what services are you offering and what are you doing next?
I am offering my signature sessions, which I call restorative spirit programming. All my sessions are online, and we move between past life healing, chakra balancing, coaching, and introducing you to my clients, to their various guides, angels, friends who are around them. I have 3 retreats coming up next year. One is sold out, but we are going to Sedona in July, which I'll be co-hosting with an incredible medicine woman who lives in Sedona. And then next September, we will be going to Ireland for the Celtic Fairy Retreat, which I am so excited about. Awesome. And thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to that. It's just going to be so magical. And I just started a private community, the Cosmic Joy Connection, which is over on Mighty Networks, which basically is a Facebook just for our community and just for us to share our spiritual experiences, to talk about the challenges that come with standing in your power in this world, and everything devoted to the esoteric and the metaphysical. It's been a very joyful place. So everyone is invited to join us there as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And how do they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at FaithStrang, or TikTok. And my website is www.faithstranghealing.com.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'll add that in the caption as well. I want to thank you for coming on the Cusp of Rebirth today and talking all of the healing and the wellness with us today, and spirituality, which is so important. It's all encompassing, right? Everything is connected. And the more that we're able to get grounded in that, we know that we can move in our power with purpose. And that's the journey. And so before we get out, I wanted to share, or better yet, I wanted to ask, what is one thing that you would tell your younger self?
Oh, another really good question. Relax. Just relax. Have more fun. It's all happening, but you've just got to be open to letting yourself be guided. It's not going to look like you think it's going to look, but if you're open, it's going to be better.
I received that myself. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Relax, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank y'all for joining the Cusp of Rebirth. You'll check us out at thickgirlyogala.com. And we're also on YouTube. Stay tuned for our next episode. Make sure you follow through and connect with Faith, Instagram, TikTok, and her website. I'll have it below. Ciao, ciao. And